And there it is. Red light is on. It means we are live and direct Wednesday, 3 p.m. Eastern. Thanks, everyone, for coming in. We're right in the midst of playing with technology and making things work. Let me pull up. We were just doing the pre-show, which we're going to make it a post-show. I'm going to have to change that slide. But, hey, at least we know that works. And we'll try to bring up the trailer that our chef has put together for us a little later. For those of you just jumping in, I'm Dave Williams. I'm your host from findyournewnormal.com. And this week, I'm doing it solo. Haley had a prior commitment that she had to go through. So it's just Chef Ryan, his wonderful wife, Jessie, and myself talking about something that is one of the big issues that so many of us face. And as you know, every week we try to look at what does a cancer patient or survivor and sometimes caregivers have to really deal with as they go from their diagnosis through to the treatment program and into survivorship. There's about 14 areas that the Cancer Registry has identified, and every week we talk about one of them. I look at things through the eyes of the cancer patient who is still trying to recover through everything that I'm doing. And at the same time, we bring in resources every week of various videos and guests that try to help us deal with things. This week, as those of you have looked at our registration page, know we're lucky enough to have Chef Ryan and his wonderful wife Jessie. They have written both a cookbook called Cooking for Chemo. And they've also got a live broadcast that they do. And we thought we'd bring them in and talk about just what are the cooking issues that cancer patients need to go through. And particularly those of us that, can remember our chemo or still going through chemo. There's lots of effects that we have to deal with. So hopefully we can start to explore all those issues. And as you know, we've got a way of bringing in guests from the audience. So those of you that have questions, just put a /Q and put your question and we'll see it and we'll respond to it. And after we get a chance to talk to Chef and his good wife, Jessie, we'll open up the other seat and be able to have a discussion with you on camera. So with that as the intro, let me just jump right in and say welcome, Chef Ryan. And I never know. It's not just a co-host and it's not just a wife. It's the faithful duo. The two of you.
Partners in crime.
Partners in crime, yeah. We are the inseparable.
So much. So why don't we go right to the beginning? How in the heck did the two of you decide that dealing with culinary issues and cancer made a fit? Share your story with our audience.
Sure. So that's probably more my area of expertise. So both my grandfathers actually had cancer, went through chemotherapy, and subsequently passed away. And then my best friend in college actually passed away when he was 20. 21 technically. So I watched them go through the process of starvation and needing to eat and going through all the side effects the chemotherapy presents. And so what we did was when my mom got diagnosed with cancer, I'm sorry, let me turn this down just a little. When my mom got diagnosed with cancer, it became my mission to basically make sure that the same thing didn't happen to her, because in my experience with cancer up until that point in time, the only experience that I had was that you got cancer, you had chemotherapy, and then you ceased to be. And so I wasn't going to let this happen with my mom. So we were living in Texas, helping some family friends run a restaurant. And we realized when my mom had been diagnosed with cancer that she had nobody there to help her through it. And we assumed she was going to have to go through chemotherapy. She actually had AGR2 positive breast cancer. And so it was through the treatment of her and taking care of her that I was able to come up with the theories and ideas that I was able to. And it was basically just acting as her caregiver and cooking for her every single day, every single meal, and being her living caregiver that it kind of came to be today. And so it was when it came to be that started as just like a little packet, a little pamphlet. And this little pamphlet eventually, thanks to Jessie, became a book because she said that I well, basically had too big of ideas inside of the cookbook, and so inside a little packet for the average person to be able to understand.
I couldn't just pick it up and start cooking.
Right.
And I was like, hey, what about people like me who can't cook but are taking care of someone?
And so we realized that we needed to turn this into something fun and friendly for everybody that anybody could pick up and learn and understand and really get going with. And so that's kind of where Cooking for Chemo and After the book came from, which then turned into the live show and the website and talking to people and being on the show and all kinds of other fun stuff.
And just simply cooking for his mom, you know, it wasn't like, oh, I'm going to write this book going into it or, you know, change the world or help all these people. He just started cooking for her and noticing some common theme in what he was doing. So he started a log of what she liked, why she liked it, what she didn't like, what you know, all that stuff. So he kept tasting notes, and then there was a common theme that emerged. So.
And how has the reaction been? Has the world been beating your path down? I mean, it's such a cool concept.
It has. We are currently located in St. Louis, Missouri. And it was when we relocated here that we I was working for someone else. We were doing other stuff. We were helping this person out and that person out with other non-related projects. But so we got the book going. Once we got the book going, which we launched end of last June. And once we got it launched, it's just been like a tidal wave because people need this information that people didn't have before. This whole idea that you know, food is attainable and easy and simple, and you just have to have basic, easy to know concepts to make the metallic taste go away and have it taste good again and want to eat and avoid those mouth sores and all that nasty stuff that happens. And so what it allowed us to do is start doing stuff like this. And so I actually do this now as a full-time job. This is how we make a living every day. And you know, this is what we do. We dedicate our lives to fighting cancer. And I always keep waiting for that question to come up, that investigative journalist who's like, now, Ryan, can you tell us how evil exactly are you that you're living off cancer patients? And, you know, and we do this because we love it and we want to help people. And my mom went through this, and, you know, her, you know, she's known people who have gone through it. And everyone has someone in their life, either directly or indirectly, who has gone through cancer. And you know, statistically, you're more than likely going to go through cancer at some point in your life than not. So it's just the right thing to do. So yes, people
and, you know, from getting a book, you know, has struck me as being so valuable because I mean that's how I found you, as I saw you on Facebook and you had the book, and I said, well, isn't that really cool? But then, you know, as I started to learn more about you, it seemed that you could do more by showing us what to do with the culinary expertise that you have. And, you know, for the audience that we have, they don't know that I'm a foodie. I just love to watch the shows. I'm much like Jessie. I'm not very good at cooking, and I'm still learning. And the reason I watch the cooking show is because there's all kinds of little tips and ideas that I could use that help me. But with cancer issues and changing my diet and learning what I need to do, I was forced to start to re-examine what could I do on my own. And I started looking for people who could help me understand the basics because, you know, I'm like a lot of people. I still burn my toast and I overcook.
You're like me, Dave.
It's, you know, just part of. Not all of us have got. I mean, you got green thumbs when you do gardening. What is it with the cooking? I mean,
I think it's burned up fingers.
Toasted fingers.
This is my most recent
culinary injury. Into thinking that, you know, you could take your recipes and your book ideas and then have a live broadcast. That was such a cool idea.
Yeah, and we always wanted to do something with the actual cooking part. Being a two-person operation, it makes it a little difficult, but you know, we got the swift kick in the behind to start doing it and doing these shows.
From someone we love.
And originally the idea was we're going to do a website and we're going to put all this content on there. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to teach you how to chop and I'm going to teach you how to mince and I'm going to teach you how to pick up out a pot and pick up a pan and jump up and down and, you know, what the color purple is.
But we realize most people know how to at least cut something.
Right, and if they can't, you can Google, how do you cut an onion? You know, I didn't need to give that basic information. I needed to just kind of take the idea that if you didn't know how to do something, you could learn how to do it, and that you could then apply it. And so the show is kind of born out of the necessity that we can't do something so boring and educational, overly educational. We got to do something that's fun, fun-educational, as I say, which is fun and educational. And so that's where the show came from, is the need that people need something fun and entertaining, because cancer is a boring, terrifying, horrible subject that everybody is just terrified of, just even discuss. And so it's such a dry conversation. You talk to your doctor.
So we wanted to make something fun,
right?
Along with being educational.
So I'm the educational one, and she's the fun one.
And that's where I come in, the fun part, because he's over here doing this, that, and the other. I'm like, well, what are you doing? Can I taste it? It looks gross, but it smells good, or it smells awful, but oh, that's delicious. So we wanted to just incorporate both parts, the fun and the educational part.
Mm-hmm.
And you do it so well. You play off each other. It's such a nice duo. I mean, it's interesting to watch Jessie's reaction, because it's my reaction. I'm living the world through her eyes, because what she's doing is exactly what I do in the kitchen. And then you, as the chef, you come across as the person who's patient and understanding, but really knows what he's
very patient.
All of these little tidbit information. Even like today's show on doing pierogies. I mean, I was amazed at how all that came together. And there's a lot of the information about what the heck is a pierogi, but then how do you cook it? And even the basics of, do you put hot water in or cold water in, makes a big difference. Do you put a lot of oil when you're trying to toast it or saute it, whatever the term is?
If he had not told
what to do, and the two of you are balanced off so well. But hey, I've got a question for you from today's show. What's the difference of having to boil the pierogies versus having microwaved them? They're frozen. Why couldn't I have just got them ready for saute in my microwave? Why would I have to boil them first?
Well, here's my opinion on this, and this is all opinion. If you microwave them, they're going to dry out on the corners, because what a microwave does is the microwave vibrates the water inside of the food, and what that does is it causes it to leave. So what makes a noodle cooked and moist is the water. When you microwave it, you're cooking it with the water that pre-exists. It's for the same reason. That's why you don't microwave rice with no water in it. You put a little water in there to make sure it stays hydrated. So that's why whenever you cook food or rehydrate it inside of the microwave, it gets a little dry, especially around the edges. So I always recommend you boil things that need to be boiled so that it keeps them nice and moist. The saute is going to cook out the extra moisture at the end anyways. And the big thing is just to make sure they don't stay sticky, because of the extra starch on the noodles and stuff. But I hope that answered the question without being too technical.
Because I was watching what Jessie was saying, and I said, "Yeah, ask him this. Ask him." I didn't think coming off in the water, and what do you do with it? And then is it really cooked? And a good thing you weren't putting your fingers in it, because that's what I would have done. I loved it when you're then saying, "Hey, I got to test this, but I'm going to burn my mouth." But you went right ahead into the
I just went for it, Dave.
Sauce. I mean, you jumped right in.
On the microwave, you could put the pierogies inside of water and then put it in the microwave, and that would heat everything fairly evenly. So you could do that if you wanted to just, if you don't have a burner or something like that, if you're like a college dorm or something, and you want to be able to put them just away and just let them go. Water typically boils within 7 minutes inside the microwave. So that is an option, and then you can just saute them right away.
Would it have taken as much time? Because it took about 5 or 6 minutes to do the heating and boiling before you went to the sauteing. Would it be faster in the microwave?
It depends on what kind of microwave you have and what kind of burners you have. I have some serious commercial level burners in my kitchen because I insisted on that when we moved into our place. It was one of the requirements. I had to have a gas stove or an induction burner. So if you have something like that, that's going to be a lot faster. But an electric griddle kind of thing, it's going to take forever to just microwave it. So
in water.
In the water. Don't dry it out.
Don't dry it out. It'll be nasty.
Now, true. Don't set forest fires with pierogies.
Don't burn down your house with potatoes.
Well, and I know you're joking, but you were very serious when you said, hey, we're going to take it off of the burner to the other burner in case there's still some oil in there while we're looking at something else. We're not paying attention. So those little bits of information that you throw in really make a difference to those of us who are just struggling to figure out how to do it. And I guess would even the serious cook, would still have accidents because they don't take all of these things into account. But you're so meticulous. You've got all of these things that have to be done, and you do it in such a gentle way that you don't intimidate the heck out of me. I just is so excited every week when you get one of these out, and I say, oh, look what I've just learned. It's just amazing.
I was very lucky. I learned how to cook Western style, which is you throw the knife, through the pot, you throw the pan at the person to encourage them to learn. And then I also worked in Chinese kitchens and studied under a Chinese chef. And he was very loving and caring and patient and quiet. And he would just make sure, you do this because of this. Whereas in the other kitchens I worked in, it was, no, you do this because this is how we do it here and there are no other options. So I had the luxury of learning from a more compassionate style of chef, who just, they let you do it, they let you fail, and then they teach you why you failed. And so that's why I'm so, no, you do it like this, because if you don't do it like this, you're going to burn the house down.
Right. That's right. Well, and I've just got to reinforce to the audience that if you're not watching Chemo or Cooking for Chemo.org, you're missing some both education and fun. And it's not just for chemo. I mean, my chemo was 3 years ago. It's after, that's part of it. It's cooking for chemo and after. And I am struggling with new ways of eating and new ways of preparing food. Mm-hmm. And each week you're bringing new ideas on. Today, you were on the stove, the first hot meal. The last ones were, just a cold meal, and yet they look really good. It actually made me go to the store and buy some. It's amazing how the humor that you add, and yet the serious nature of the cooking knowledge comes through and motivates me to go to do things. And so, I'm obviously a groupie, a big fan, and I hope all of our audience does the same. You've got to watch the Cooking for Chemo show and join the cooking club, which is a nice feature that you've just added, because there I get the recipes, I get other tips and other videos like the tips for flavor that will play at the end of today's show so that people can see that. There's all kinds of extra things that Chef Ryan and Jessie are doing that make this a very comprehensive place to visit and get information. It's
such nice things.
It's worth putting your email address in. No question about it.
You say such nice things about us, Dave.
Well, it's unusual because, I'd compare you to the Jamie Olivers of the world. I mean, Jamie was one of my friends because he does things simply, Mm-hmm. Some of them, are very ornate meals that are interesting and look good, but I'll never get around to doing them. And I've got a lot of cookbooks and I just don't get there. Jamie, at least, particularly when he does his live broadcasts, I follow him and then take some ideas, but he's still a couple of notches above me, even when he's grilling cheese. So those of you who haven't seen him grill make a grilled cheese sandwich that ends up with a cheese crown all the way along the top. It looks so good, and it's supposed to be really easy to do when I watch him, but I haven't mastered it yet. So I bet when you guys get around to doing it, then I'm going to learn how to put a crown on my cheese sandwich. Because if that's all I'm going to eat, I want to enjoy it. And that's what you're doing. You're making me enjoy the food, and that makes a big difference. So you said today you wanted to be in your kitchen. Can you still do it even higher? Yeah, you can?
Yes. So
what is it that you wanted to share with us today?
Well, we know about your love of tomatoes, Dave.
Well,
let me set the stage for that. I do like the taste of a tomato, but I am overwhelmed by the number of tomatoes that are out there. I mean, I go, I now shop at Whole Foods because all my nutrition friends are telling me go over there. And when I go there, there's the plum tomatoes, there's the cherry tomatoes, there's the beefsteak tomatoes, there's the heirloom tomatoes, there's the hydroponic tomatoes. I mean, they're all out there, and all I want is something to put on my nice piece of chicken on my sandwich. And I can't figure out what to do, and so I'll buy a couple of things, but then I'll take a couple of slices and then rot out in 2 days, and it doesn't taste good anymore. So all I end up doing is mushing them into a tomato sauce and then some chips into it. You know, that's all I end up with all the tomatoes. So I am eager to hear what you think Dave can learn about tomatoes.
Well, Dave, the first thing you need to know is that a tomato is no laughing matter. Okay, so turn me down just a little bit.
Okay.
Because I'm going to go on a rant here for a second.
Okay.
Sure.
I'm highly distracted by the sound of my own voice for some reason.
We're getting a little reverb with the...
Right.
So, basically tomatoes...
Hey, Chef Michael's in the audience. He's one of your
Yay, Chef Mike. So, basically tomatoes break down into three main categories. So, we have the big beef tomato. We have the plum tomato, which is the most common known variety of that is the Roma tomato, which is what we have here.
Looks kind of like an egg.
And then we have our grape tomatoes. And they look like grapes. Grapes and cherry tomatoes, they're pretty much the same thing. Cherries are they're shaped like a cherry, and a grape is shaped like a grape. So,
gotcha.
So we're going to go ahead and
that's what I do if I was with you. I'd be eating them all.
So what a lot of people don't know about tomatoes is that a natural tomato, they actually aren't from Italy. A lot of people think the tomatoes are from Italy, but they're not. They were actually from Central and Southern America, and they were brought over during an event called the Columbian Exchange. See, this is the education part of the funcation.
Yeah, I love it.
This is the fun part.
And so Christopher Columbus came over, discovered all the stuff, brought it back to the New World. So what he brought back looked a lot like this. It was this little tiny fruit, except they weren't this color red. Tomatoes actually aren't naturally red. They are the heirloom tomatoes, the orange, that yellow color, the greens, all those different colors. That's actually the natural color of a tomato. A tomato being made red is actually made because in Italy and in Europe, they were used as ornamental plants like flowers to decorate tables and decorate different gardens. People didn't eat them. They thought they were poison because they were red. So people didn't eat them, and then they started eating them, and now we eat them all the time. So that's kind of the biggest thing to know. So the biggest difference, so just about tomatoes, as far as the heirloom tomatoes go, there's really not that big of a difference between a red tomato and a yellow tomato or an orange tomato. They're all pretty much the same thing ultimately. It's just about color preference. I like to use the heirloom tomatoes in fresh stuff because it adds a fun texture and color, and it's just fun. It's different. It's just nice and it's fresh. It's fun. So your big beef tomato, this is the bad boy that you're going to use. This is commonly known as what's called a slicing tomato. So you're gonna take there's the camera. You're gonna take the knife and you're just gonna cut through that bad boy real quick.
That thing is pretty beefy.
Oh, is it ever? That'd go great on my steak. If I could only allowed to eat steak again.
So the thing about these big beef tomatoes is you can see how they're big and they're kind of white and they're kind of, you smell them. They smell a little bit like tomatoes, but they don't really smell like tomatoes. They're kind of watery and juicy. So a big beef tomato is really only suitable for use in like a sandwich. I don't even use them in sandwiches because they're boring. There's not a lot of pop flavor to them. There's nothing really fun. Yeah, go ahead and give that a taste. And the first thing you'll notice is the texture's weird.
Yeah, it's got like a little grainy.
It's grainy, old
styrofoam.
It's watery. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have that sweet savoriness that like a smaller tomato has.
It doesn't have a lot of flavor.
So there's one way
put salt on it all the time.
Yes. So first thing we do is we put a little kosher salt right on that bad boy. And what that's going to do, it's going to bond to the glutamate inside of the tomato, which is the savory flavor. And it's going to make a big pop of explosion.
Oh, that's much better.
So see how that salt bonds. Okay, so that's the first thing you need to know. So big beef tomatoes, these are for sandwiches. Don't use them for anything else. Don't even use them for salsa. They're not even worth it.
Okay.
Next thing is the plum tomato. The plum tomatoes were developed in Italy, which is why we usually use them in sauces. They've got like a more medium strength of skin.
Yeah, this one's a lot tougher than the other one.
So these are going to have a higher content of the savory chemicals that make everything like big and savory and bold. Okay, so a Roma tomato is mostly used for sauce, or plum tomatoes. You might also know the San Marzano tomato. They're all the same type of tomatoes. So the plum tomatoes, the big difference here is that these beef tomatoes, they ripen all year round if it's in the right temperature. These Roma tomatoes, they grow all at once, and then they all ripen at once. So you can't really get them all year fresh unless you're getting them from Mexico and Guatemala, just depending on the seasons. So we're going to taste this one real quick.
Okay.
Don't let me cut it.
That looks good. It's nice and colorful.
I want to know the taste difference.
Okay, so go ahead and give that a taste.
Okay.
And then describe the texture.
It's a lot better than the other one. It's not as grainy. And it has a little bit more flavor.
Okay. Now we're going to do the same thing. You can see how the compartments are a little tighter. You got a little more flavor to them. There's also a little more stuff in it. So we'll put a little bit of salt on there. Let that glutamic acid lighten up.
So what is the salt doing?
The salt is bonding with the glutamic acid. And
so it's doing what? It's making it
savory.
Yeah, okay.
It's boosting all the flavors in there.
Oh, yeah.
If you throw pepper on it, does it change at all?
So the pepper adds spiciness and aromatic quality, whereas the salt simply just acts as a flavor booster, and it boosts. So glutamic acid is an amino acid, and it's basically your tongue's ability to taste savory. So when you eat meat or mushrooms or red wine or anything that's really savory, it's that back kind of part of your mouth. It's got that warmth to it. Okay, so that's a plum tomato, and we're going to use that in sauces. I like these on not tomatoes. Oh, it's live. I like these on sandwiches. I chunk these up into big chunks, and I throw them. I usually make like a little salad that I put on top of my sandwiches, and then I put the bread on top. So I'll dice up the onions and the tomatoes and the lettuce, and I'll put on top a little olive and vinegar. That's how I do that. And then the last thing is our grape tomato. So go ahead and since it's a little smaller, I'll slice it in half.
Okay. So
you can kind of see how those look on the inside. They're just really, really tight. All the cells are really close in there.
These are cute. They're little like me.
So go ahead and describe the texture and the flavor.
There's so much flavor in these. It's just like a pop of wow.
So that's the cool thing about grape tomatoes, is they're really usable for fresh things like salads and things like that. Like I use them in my caprese salads, or I use them in like my summer salad, or anything that's needs a fresh, colorful kind of thing. I wouldn't make sauce out of them. You probably could, but they don't break down very well. So you want to kind of use them for fresh applications. So
these even have a smell to them. Like the other ones didn't really smell like anything, but this one has like a little scent to it.
I put a little salt on there already, so go ahead and describe that.
Oh yeah, that just comes to life. I mean, it was already flavorful. A little salt on that. It was just like poof.
So
wow.
So what I usually use for cooking is I use the Roma tomatoes or the plum tomatoes of any kind, because I make a lot of sauce at home, because I make a lot of Italian food. I make salsa and a lot of other things that use tomatoes. So I usually I buy grape tomatoes, cherry tomatoes, and the Roma tomatoes only. I don't even bother with the big beef tomatoes. Some people like them. My dad loves these things in the summer. He refrigerate them, slice them, throw some salt on them. He loves it, but it's not going to be as flavorful as a smaller tomato. These smaller tomatoes just have a lot more flavor. And especially for chemo people, we want to make sure that we're getting that accurate use of the savory, the salty, the spicy, the sour, and the sweet flavors, so that we're making sure we're covering all the bases as we go.
So it's nice and flavorful.
Yeah, basically. Do you have any questions?
Yes. Do I put my tomatoes in the fridge, or do I leave them on the table?
Okay. I put mine in the fridge because I don't always eat mine right away. If you're going to use them right away, or you're going to use them in the next couple of days, leave them out. They'll ripen, kind of like any other fruit. You might want to just Google online, just look at the different things you can do with them, how long they last. Some people say keep them out because they want them to continue to ripen as they sit there, which they will. But we eat a lot of food on a regular basis, and so you can kind of stockpile things. But they will get better on the counter in the warmth.
You mean better in flavor?
Yes, they'll continue to develop that flavor until they start molding, and then you don't want to eat them.
And you want to throw them away,
Yeah.
or throw them in your garden for compost.
Yeah, but don't ever throw tomato waste.
Cut off a slice or two for your sandwich, and you've got half of the tomato left. Do you put that open in the fridge, or do you put it in a baggie?
I wrap it in Saran wrap, plastic wrap, and then I throw it in the refrigerator, in the fresh drawer, so it stays cold. That way it doesn't go bad. Other people.
And how long will it last?
I don't know, because we don't let them last that long.
Well, I mean, is it like some things a day?
Sure.
It doesn't taste good. I mean, can it last 3 or 4 days?
Yes. Yeah. I don't know how long exactly a tomato's going to last, because it's going to vary from, basically variety, what kind it is, and then how well you sealed it and how much you cut out.
So I know that when I'm curious about something that I think's been in the fridge for a while, and I'm like, oh, I think it's been here for a while. I'm like, Ryan, how do I know if this is good or not? And he always talks about the nose test.
Mm-hmm.
So the nose test.
Okay, so the nose test is you pick up whatever it is, and you, just like science class, you want to You want to blow it towards you, and you want to whiff it. If it smells bad, you throw it away. You don't even mess with it, because there's nothing worse than food poisoning, especially when you're going through chemotherapy, because that's just the fastest way to end up into the hospital with dehydration and diarrhea and all the nasty stuff. We're talking about food, so let's not talk about that word. So, but that's basically what you do is you sniff it, you make sure it smells okay, you look for the mold, you look for any gross stuff on it, and as long as it's properly sealed, it should last several days. If you chunk Roma tomatoes up, they'll last a couple weeks. You know, especially if you put them in like a salsa or something with vinegar and salt in there, they'll basically just preserve itself.
Yeah, because with my case, they're gone like you in 2 or 3 days. But I find that if I cut it on Sunday, by Wednesday, it's all watery and loose. It's not firm anymore, and so I don't really want to eat it. So I'll chop it up, make a dip out of it, or make it salsa or whatever. But it looks like I only get a day or two after I've cut it into something that's going to be good on my sandwich or in my salad.
And so the good thing about like little Roma tomatoes like this is not only packed with like all kinds of good flavor, they're small. So you could split this in half, and then this is a sandwich right here. You know, this is just like 2 slices.
This whole thing on a sandwich,
right?
Sandwich,
and it doesn't go to waste. And this whole thing's going to go to waste.
Yeah, I'm always worried about the reaction in my colon, because if it's too acidic, then I get a reaction. And so I know that it's trying to find something that I buy from the store. And with a tomato in particular, sometimes I buy the tomato and it's, you know, say a beefsteak tomato. Yeah, on one, I buy 2 tomatoes, but they each taste differently to me when I cut them. They don't taste the same. Is that normal with tomatoes? Every tomato has a different flavor?
Yes. And that has a lot to do with a couple different things. So the way that tomatoes are made these days, they have a lot thicker skins. And so you have hundreds of different varieties that are used these days, as opposed like a beefsteak tomato. These have to be harvested in a special way because they're fragile. So they had to start growing varieties that have these really thick skins. So as a result, you get this really inconsistent product. Plus, the tomatoes you're going to get in the grocery store, they're not always going to be from the same place, not going to be from the same orchard, not going to be from the same, you know, even region. You know, like a lot of the stuff you get in the winter is from Mexico or Guatemala or Belize because they're warm. And they're not going to be the same as something that you got locally from your local farmer's market in the middle of, you know, August. It's not going to be quite as fresh. It's not going to be quite as well developed. And so they pick them a little underdeveloped. So you always get this weird watery kind of product.
Because I certainly know that if I get in the summertime something from the local, you know, farmer, it's, you know, fresh and alive. It's so different than what I would at the store. And in the winter, as you say, it's been shipped for, I don't know, a week, I guess it takes to, you know, come up. It's a very different product, which I understand and don't get frustrated by. What I get frustrated is I'll get one tomato and it tastes really good, and the other one that I'm waiting for Wednesday to eat is not so good. So I'm trying to find the best tomato that's going to retain the flavor. And I think it's these little cherry tomatoes that are probably the ones that are going to be as good on Monday as when I cut them open on Wednesday.
And the other thing is you can smell this. That'll tell you a lot about the ripeness and the flavor of a tomato. If you just give that thing a sniff.
Oh, yeah. It's very, like, there's no scent. Practically no scent.
When they're really ripe, these stems actually smell just like any other fruit, because tomatoes are a fruit, not a vegetable. They're going to smell like what they taste like. So the more you have because most of your eating experience is actually nose-based as opposed to mouth-based. So that's kind of where that all kind of plays in there. But that's how I buy tomatoes, and that's how I check them out.
He smells everything in the grocery store. He's sitting there, he's like...
My grandma says that I'm a bloodhound. Which isn't completely untrue.
Well, there's just so much to know and learn, particularly when you're caring about food. I mean, before cancer, food was just something I stuck in my mouth and that was it. But now I'm very peculiar in terms of what I want to buy and what I want to taste, because I don't eat that much or big portions as much anymore. And so I'm trying to find something that's got full of flavor and easy to do. And that's what the two of you really have shown me, that it's okay. And you know, I want to see more chefs doing that, because there's more that I can do if you motivate me to do it. Not everybody, a lot of us are intimidated by the kitchen, and to know what to do, and you make mistakes, and so you don't do it again, and you end up always going to buy canned vegetables and fruits, and because you open them up and you don't have to do with it, but they don't taste very good. But at least you get some food. I really want to learn more about how to do what the two of you do, and that's why your shows are just so cool for people like me.
Well, thank you. Yeah,
because it is fun and education. The two of them together, make all the difference. And, we don't have any questions coming in from the audience, which surprises me because we've been talking a lot of things, and it'd be great if anyone has any questions for Chef or Jessie. Maybe everybody knows everything about tomatoes, and I'm the only one getting an education here. We had a perfect time because I've got to make my dinner, and I'm going to walk across to Whole Foods again. And when I do, I am going to try the cherry tomatoes. I'm not going to get the big fat beefsteak tomatoes anymore. I'm just not any success with those.
What did you do the other day?
I don't remember. What are you trying to out me for?
I was just going to talk about how our show is for everybody. It's not like you keep saying, it's not just for the professional chef or the person who's been doing it for a long time.
I messed up the pudding.
Yeah, you did.
The instant pudding. Who knew you could do that?
So we went to the store the other day and we got the chocolate and the banana pudding, and the chocolate pudding was stovetop. And she didn't realize that. She started doing the stovetop, and she thought she burned it, and then she didn't burn it.
I quickly pulled it off. I was like, oh no!
I had Jell-O flavored chocolate milk.
But I didn't let it cook long enough to mix together properly and congeal properly. And then so by the time it cooled, it turned into chocolate water.
Yeah, pretty much.
Or milk.
It was kind of weird. It still tasted like pudding.
Well, but it probably tasted good because I found that instant puddings or mixes, they don't have to be instant, but the ones that you're cooking up yourself, I find they're more tasteful than the ones in the little packages that I buy already made. So it's no big deal to make up a pudding and then put it into little cups. And it turns out they can last the week. I just put them in with a saran wrap over the top, and that pudding is still good, a couple of days later.
But the great thing about my failure is that even though it was instant pudding and I failed, I'm not scared to try it again, because working with Ryan and doing the show with Ryan, I've learned that I just need to be bold and keep trying until I understand why I messed up. And when I can, and he teaches me why I failed at that. And that way, next time I go to attempt it, it's going to turn out so much better, and I won't be afraid to cook. And he gives me the confidence, and he gives people who are watching the show like you, Dave, the confidence to just keep trying. It's okay. Don't worry if it messes up.
Right.
There's always next time. Try again.
Or I think the perfect example of that is the frozen pizza incident. After our first show, we had gotten done shooting it, and Jessie got all, like you did. You got all fired up. She got excited. I can do this. You're right. It's, let's go, Jessie. I can do this. And so she gets the fancy spices out of the cabinet. She gets the pepper and the red pepper and the Parmesan and all that stuff. And so next thing you know, she's bringing this pizza over that has 4 pounds of black pepper on it, and it was hilarious. It was the spiciest pizza I think I've ever had in my entire life.
The dog liked it,
but it's all about the ambition to get out there and do it. So yeah, so we're just plugging along and doing that stuff. And at Love's Life, yes, the key with chemotherapy is to understanding flavor, which we're going to watch a little video about here in a little bit. It's so the 5 flavors are they're savory, or they're salty, savory, spicy, sour, and sweet. And I do it in that order because that's the way I actually season. I taste my salt, I taste my savory, I taste my spicy, I taste my sour, and then I taste my sweet. And we'll go into that a little bit later. Or that's, I could talk for literally hours about why I do that and how to do it. It's all in the book and it's on the website and stuff. But the key with chemo is that the flavors, what happens is your nose becomes diminished because chemotherapy, what it does is it's like dropping a bomb onto your body. It just does. It affects every system. It affects your hair and your nails. If it affects your hair and your nails, of course it's going to affect your nose. It's going to affect your tongue. It's going to affect everything. So yes, it is about making them bold, but it's not just about making them bold. It's about finding the imbalances that happen in your tongue and finding the insufficiencies, so the lack of flavor inside your nose. So you have the 5 flavors: the salty, the savory, the spicy, the sour, the sweet, and those are the only things that really happen inside your mouth. There's texture and there's heat and stuff like that. But what happens is inside your nose, that's where you perceive everything else in flavor. And so what happens is you smell you smell a tomato, like we're smelling this tomato. We're sitting here and I'm going, okay, I smell floral notes. I smell dirt and sunshine. I smell plants. I smell a garden. That's what I smell when I smell.
And the other thing that he learned too was that, you have to adjust to what the person going through treatment is craving. So, your mom craved things that were savory
and salty, or savory
and sweet. So, his dishes tended to lean being more towards savory and more towards sweet, because that was what was appetizing to her. So yes, it was bold flavor, but it was also catering to
what she was actually, the changes that were happening.
Yes.
And that's what we teach is compensating for the changes that are happening to your body as they're happening. And so as you go through chemotherapy, they're going to get stronger or they're going to get weaker. It just depends on what you're on and how many doses.
Changes.
And it's this flux, it's this constant influx thing, which makes it the worst group of people to cook for ever in the history of ever. And I've been working in restaurants for 15 years. So if I say that's a hard group of people to cook for, that's a hard group of people to cook for. So, it's like cooking for the pickiest 4-year-olds ever. You can have this or not have this. So the biggest example I talk about with the nose is my mom. My mom loved tuna salad sandwiches. We used to eat tuna salad sandwiches all the time. And so the biggest thing here is that when you crack open that can, you get wow, that tuna, it escapes, it runs amok in the house and it's running around. And so for my mom, I still could eat tuna and I was fine. So I had made myself a tuna salad sandwich. My mom lived all the way upstairs, above us. And then, you go up the stairs, and in her room, that smell of tuna came up. And instantly, as soon as it hit her nose, she got nauseous. And we don't know why that happened. We don't know what caused it, but
because she used to love it.
Yeah, she loved this stuff. We narrowed it down to this idea of pungency. And pungency is the strength of a smell and how it affects you. So roses are low in pungency, but rotting fish is going to be high in pungency. So there's different smells and scents that can affect you differently, and it's really a lot about trial and error, but sticking to ordering the flavors. Start with your mouth first. Find out, like, you might be extra salt sensitive because you're dehydrated. If you're dehydrated, you're all of a sudden super salt sensitive. If you're missing the right nutrients in your body, you're going to all of a sudden want sugar because your body is starving. And so sugar tastes amazing because it's the fastest thing your body can burn. And so that's kind of what happens in the tongue. And then when your nose, you got to work with the pungency and the smell and making that food appetizing for them. Because you might find that, all of a sudden something you love, like tuna fish, is horrible. Like my grandfather, he loved filet of fish sandwiches when he had cancer. He had multiple myeloma. And the only thing he could eat when he was going through cancer was McDonald's filet of fish sandwiches. That was it. Nothing else worked for him. But my mom, at the same time, could not eat the fish. You bring any fish anywhere near her, and she'd go running for the hills as fast as she could.
But I guess at the same time, the fish sandwich made sense for your grandpa, too,
yes,
based on your salty, savory, spicy, sour, sweet, because it hit all those notes in there as well.
So, and the way I discuss that in the book is you have the cod. The cod is going to be savory. You're going to have the breading. This is going to be savory and salty. You have the bun. Those McDonald's buns are naturally sweet, which makes sense. You've got the savoriness of the oil inside the mayonnaise, and then you have the sour flavor and the sweet flavor from the relish that bends everything together. So that's why I talk about it's called roundness of flavor theory, and it's about rounding out those flavors so they work as a whole as opposed to working as individuals. So people always treat flavor and the body like they're separate, and they're not. It's all integrated. So you hear your food, you see your food, you smell your food, you taste your food, you feel your food in your mouth, you touch it with your fingers, wash your hands. If you're touching it with your fingers, especially if you're going through chemo, you don't want to put dirty food in your mouth. So, but that's kind of the gist. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, it does. That's just amazing. In fact, we're going to play the tips for flavor trailer that you did. and you can be there to ask, talk about what the two of you are talking about as we watch that video. Because this is so important to us to try and understand not just what we're cooking, but how we're making it taste good, which is something that you don't learn other than by experiment. You know, you try it and you see what you can do. We're getting close to the top of the hour, so maybe what we could do is really talk a little bit about what you're doing and where you're going, and then we'll play that video, get you to answer some questions on it. But while we're on the air, what is the next step? Because the book was really great. The live show, after only 4 episodes, you become addicted. You know, this is going to be another Downton Abbey. You know, I mean, this is something everyone's got to watch. And now you've just added the cooking club. What else are you planning on doing?
First, I have to talk about Downton Abbey really quick. Everyone forever kept saying, this is my bad. It's a funny story. Everyone kept saying, you got to watch Downton Abbey. You got to watch, but okay, I misread it. I'm a fast reader. I thought it said Downtown Abbey, like as in Abby, who lives downtown. So I turn on the show, and it's all these British people sitting around going, why, yes, would you like more tea and crumpets? And I'm going, how is this Downtown Abbey? I watch a whole episode.
Moment.
And I'm completely confused. And I'm like, this is the worst sitcom I've ever seen. There's not even a joke. So we all make mistakes. But the goal with Cooking for Chemo is to, of course, continue to grow what we're doing. We want to reach out to as many people as possible. We want to get our information to as many people's hands as possible. And we've been doing this 100% grassroots, word of mouth, tweeting, Facebooks, Instagram. We're all over everything. But the goal here is to just keep getting the video series to grow and grow and grow and grow, because I feel like the book is a great expert type level thing. Not necessarily expert level, but it's for everybody. But it's a thing that when you want to really learn how to do it, you grab the book, you read the copy of the book, and then you understand. But you also need that holding hand, which is the video series, which is me holding your hand, talking to you, walking you through the kitchen. Here's why I do this, and all the recipes we've made so far are actually from the book.
Yes.
And so I've been trying to be good about saying, this is from page 198, class. Now, please turn your books to wherever it's supposed to go. And that's kind of the vision. The vision and the dream is to just continue pushing forward. Yeah. I would love for us to get up to a couple 100,000 views on some of our videos. And that's the dream, right?
Teaching people and helping people.
At what point do you envision actually getting a live audience around it so that as you do your shtick, we can ask the questions? Is that around the corner, a few months away? When are you going to integrate the audience with the show?
Well, as you saw with our technical difficulties earlier in the show and having to rig something up in our living room instead of being able to be in the kitchen, it's just a matter of updating our technology and our computers and stuff, and then hopefully one day we'll get to go live.
We're hoping
it's around the corner. It's
sooner than later. We're hoping to make it a
part of the plan.
A 100% live cooking show where you can tune in like a live studio audience and ask questions just like this, and except to be in our kitchen instead of our living room. We're hoping by the end of the summer. That's the goal.
That's the goal. We'll see.
I don't know.
Well, I think there'd be lots of people like me who want to participate. I mean, because I watch the cooking channel and I watch all the recorded videos from all the different chefs that are out there. So I get a lot of information, a lot of education. But I had the basic questions that, as you saw today, just asking you, can I do this? Should I do that? So to have the audience integrated with you would be just such a unique thing. And maybe Chef Michael knows who else has got that kind of show. But, Chef Dennis, when he does his blabs, you get some audience interaction. But his is still a little bit more than just the basics and getting me up to speed. So I get stuff, because I can ask questions, but I get embarrassed by asking, so what's the difference between regular salt and kosher salt? I mean, I'm really at that certain basic level. And that's why I love, having your foil as Jessie, because she sticks her finger into the food just like I do. That's the way I'm learning. So I'm learning with you. Now you could have an advanced program certainly in my guess would be that after you get this done, there's going to be the basics, and then you're going to move into using the culinary skills that you've spent 15 years developing. You can't just be right there at the low end.
I guess the dream there would be
having met Chef Dennis and Chef Michael. They're so friendly. They really want to help. The three of you should have your own cooking channel. That would be just great to be. Why am I on the cooking station? I should be on the Blab cooking station. And the three of you with all your different things, and I'll have lunch and breakfast and dessert and all kinds of different things by getting all the chefs together. I think it's something that I think is open, and particularly in our world, the cancer care world is more than just the pain and the agony and the fears and everything that comes with it. You've got to make the most out of the day. And food is still important, even though it gets way to the back end because of the treatment programs. And even after the treatment programs, as I say, I've been 3 years out, but I still have problems now getting a new lifestyle change, new foods into me. So in our world, food becomes a really important thing. And we're told about nutrition and the dietitians on top of us. And we're really bombarded with don't eat this and do that. And I get told every week by my nutrition friends, have a smoothie, you got to have a smoothie. Well, I get it.
Like,
but
no.
It reacts terribly with my colon, and it's not going to be. But you can get me into juicing, and I understand that. But when will I ever get back to steak and potatoes? Not for a while. I'm just finally getting into some caramelized onions, and that's 3 years later. But finally, my body is saying, cook differently, do it in small amounts, and hopefully as I learn what to do with it, food will have the importance in my life that it used to do.
Exactly. And, it's like I always say, if you can go a week roughly a week without drinking water. You can go maybe a month. Well, I could probably go about 2 months without eating. But the food and the water, the hydration, that's going to wreck your life so much faster than anything else will. I mean, a lot of people who have cancer, they've been living with cancer for however long into this point. And when you start going through the chemotherapy, and then I love what you talk about is finding your new normal, and what is the new normal? And well, there is no such thing as a new normal, which is why I love it's the name of your show. It's just finding what works for you. And so that's one of the things we focus on is just, we want to get this food into you. We want you to eat. We're passionate about this. We want the food inside you because it's gonna change your life if you can't eat. It's gonna make it worse. This is a lifestyle. This is, food isn't just a lifestyle. They always say you can eat to live or you can live to eat. But when you have cancer, how are they not the same thing? They're exactly the same thing. Because especially if you're terminal, eat the freaking steak.
Enjoy your food.
Enjoy your life.
Have a good quality.
You only have
life.
so much longer left, and then everyone's pulling you left and right, and we're not trying to pull you left, we're not trying to pull you right, we're not trying to drag you and push you.
We're trying to come to you.
Exactly.
And say, here's where you are. Here, we're going to teach you how to make what you want to eat taste good. And what you can eat. And
that's the dream. And that's what
and
we're doing.
A lot of us understand the power of food. I was one of those people who for 7.5 weeks was liquid nutrition, TPN, through my PICC line. No food, nothing orally for 7.5 weeks. Well, without that happening, then when I finally got out of that, you would not believe what my first bowl of Rice Krispies tasted like. It was the most exquisite, delicious thing I've ever had in my life. I'll never forget what Rice Krispies tasted like after 7.5 weeks of starvation. So food has an importance, I discovered. It really makes a difference. And if you're not cooking right and you're not learning right, it's hard to recover. The wellness paradigm of let me get healed again comes along with what I'm eating. And the more I'm restricted, the more problems that I've got to face. So, as I say to Chef Michael and Dennis and to you, you guys are the experts who know about what to do. And if you can make that fit to the cancer patient in their stages, from the ones that are in chemo. I had chemo brain and couldn't even know who was feeding me. I didn't know who was in the house. I was like Alzheimer's, just right out of it. And now 3.5 years later, I'm still suffering, trying to figure out what can I eat that tastes good. I can't pair it with wine. I can't have the steak. I'm struggling with the onions. I mean, everything is a big deal. It's not go to the grocery store, buy something, put it on the table.
Mm-hmm.
So we've got to learn, as you say, to find a new normal. And the 3 chefs that I've met are just amazing people, and I'm so grateful to them for all the information. And now with you and Jess doing your shtick, the humor that you add just blows me away and gets me excited and motivated to get to the store and do stuff. So you guys take it all for, you're chefs. You've done it for years. You know what it's all about. But from the other side, this is like, gold. This is very important to us.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So let's call it there. Let's just do the final end, go off camera, and then play the trailer on the tips for flavor for the audience that we have. Okay. So to find you, it's cookingforchemo.org, right?
Yes.
And I put that in the text chat area that people can find it. And when they go there, that's where they'll enroll and be able to
join the cooking
watch
club.
The shows, join the cooking club. And there's also a link to the cookbook and all the recipes.
Videos.
Get over to the site, in other words. That's where it's all at. You have the YouTube channel, which I've subscribed to there as well, because as soon as you upload it, I get the notification. So I'm right in there saying, okay, what are they talking about today? 8 o'clock in the morning, I'm watching about cooking pierogies. I don't have to wait till it comes out in your newsletter.
Well, at least you know what you're going to have for lunch.
Well, I know what I'm having for dinner. I'm definitely getting pierogies. So
all right.
I want to find out what that's like. It's been years since I've had pierogies from friends when I was in Winnipeg. There was one of the big staples out there, and I haven't had one. But what I saw, what Jessie did with hers, I love the idea of dipping those. I mean, that just struck me as so good. So let me thank you on behalf of the audience, and I'll just turn off the recording in a second, and then we'll play the replay. For those that are watching the replay, we're going to put the link to the a video we're going to watch in the side, because it doesn't get recorded on Blab. We can play the video for us in the live audience, but the recorded videos are not recorded. So, but you can watch it, because we're going to have the comments in the text chat as Chef and Jessie talk about it. And if you want to be educationally and humorously, you've got to participate in the Cooking for Chemo Cooking Club. And for all of our wonderful audience, thank you so much for coming every week. Without you, we wouldn't have the show. And it's always, we're a talk show. We're not a big presentation show. We're just here to have some fun and help us all get a smile on our face. I mean, I loved it when you had the pierogi and the smile. I said that maybe I should just have a pierogi on my face every day, because that big smile is what we're trying to do. So please come back every Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern time. We've always got some interesting guests coming up. We've got some very interesting people for the next couple of weeks. So please go over to findyournewnormal.com. And if you need help, we've got a directory. We've got the coaching directory there. So you can see who the coaches are that are available to help. I'm not sure if you guys have put in your listing in the directory yet, because your stuff would be of use to people coming in saying, I need help on cooking. It's not just, I need help on life change or financial change or all the different areas that people are looking for coaches and help. So, make sure you guys have your listing in our coach directory. And everyone come on back next Wednesday at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we'll carry on. So I'll just hit the stop button, but don't go away. We're still going to have a post-show since the pre-show wasn't there. So smile away.
Or no corrections, no video editing.
Go with it.
I actually used to do video production a long time ago. And we decided that we want to shoot this as live and authentic as possible, so that every week you came to our house as our friends and you saw that we're just goofy and we're a bunch of hams, and she just needs some beans with all that ham, honestly, So, and that's the whole thing there is we want it to be fun and zany and interesting and weird, and we want to keep your attention, because everyone's got a short attention span, and I want to capitalize on as much as I can. So
teach you as much as you can in the shortest amount of time possible.
Exactly.
That was just a great example, and because I'm obviously a groupie, I turned the camera recording back on. We're back on the record, so the people who want to hang around for the post show are going to get that, because I just remembered you can pause the video, it doesn't end it, and then you can turn it back on. So I'm going to we're experimenting with video. We got the graphics, and now we've got the pause and proceed. We're doing everything today. This is
we only had one computer crash in the process.
Chef Michael is in there, and you want to come on camera and ask some questions, or I can turn off the camera and not have your wisdom recorded, but I just think that we've uncovered something that really should be shared by everybody in the cancer community.
Yes.
No one agrees with me. I just thought.
I didn't have anything to say.
Well, that's the way it was when I started doing these shows. Everyone said, "Well, where's the PowerPoint presentation? Where's the facts?"
Those are boring.
All you guys are just talking, and I'm saying, "Well, yeah, we're just having a conversation. We're just trying to add something instead of fear and death of cancer. Let's take a look at how you survive and live and be in the moment." So it's no wonder I keep talking to myself. Not everyone agrees with me.
Bring the slideshow.
That's right.
Exactly how we look at it.
We can have slides because that's what we had. We can do now screen sharing. So I'm learning. As the platform changes, I'm experimenting with them, and someday they'll all record them, and then we'll have it all blended together. But hey, it's a nice way of doing things. So. But I think we've exhausted the audience, and we've gone way past the hour. So I'll probably now edit this component off of the end of my video before we upload it. So again, on behalf of everyone in the audience, thanks very much for coming. It was, so
Thank you for having us.
nice of you to be here and share. And thanks again to the audience. And hope everyone comes back next week at 3 p.m. Eastern, and we'll keep talking about the things that are important to people on their journey with cancer.